Bridgerton. I've watched it 3 times now, trying to compile my thoughts, and this video is still going to be a hot mess, but let's get into it anyway. Hi everybody, my name is Erin and I'm obsessed with books, which gives me license to talk about Bridgerton because it's based on a book that I have not read. But you know what, screw it, this is my channel, I can talk about whatever the hell I want. The reaction towards the Bridgerton TV series on Netflix is overwhelmingly positive. There is some negative stuff in there, and to be honest, as much as I enjoyed the series, which I did, I do not think it was as flawless as so many people seem to think it was. There were some things that we really should discuss, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. There will be spoilers all through this for the show. I don't know why you're here if you're looking for something that doesn't have spoilers in it, is considering this is a review. I'll give an overview about what the show is about, but that's just going to be a little bit, and then we're going to get into my actual thoughts on the show. Bridgerton is set in what is supposed to be London 18-something, early 1800s, and it follows a family called the Bridgertons, among other families, but particularly the Bridgertons, and their eldest daughter, Daphne, who is coming out in society and is now eligible to be married. It's her first season in London where everybody is looking for a husband or for a wife or for a fortune, and everybody has ulterior motives for everything that they're doing. On top of this, we have a mystery gossip columnist named Lady Whistledown, who is essentially just spilling tea on everyone. She's like a gossip YouTuber for Regency England. And she's narrated by Julie Andrews, which I gotta say, love that touch. I think that what they were trying to do was combine a bit of Jane Austen with a bit of Gossip Girl, and because that was my first thought when Lady Whistledown appeared on the screen and we see her paper. I'm like, oh, so this is basically Regency Gossip Girl. The Bridgerton family is led by the eldest brother because, as we know, back in those days, men ran the house and women were just objects, right? Or breederies. Ornamental pretty things. Don't get me started. Daphne's father died years before, and now the family is run by her eldest brother. His name is Anthony, and he's supposed to help guide her through her first season, and he has no idea what he's doing, even though he insists that he's the one who knows everything about this. And I'm just like, honey, you've never had a season where you've been looking for someone. You're busy screwing an opera singer who you're never going to marry, no matter how much you want to, although I do like their relationship, even though there are issues there. I don't think there's a single relationship in the entire show that wasn't somewhat toxic, aside from maybe Eloise and Penelope, which is where the bulk of my personal issues with the show really comes from. I think that it perpetuates some rather unhealthy relationships. That's it for the non-spoilers. I'm moving right into it now, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you really should go watch the show and then come back and we'll have a discussion. So earlier I said it's supposedly set in London during the early 1800s. And, well, I shouldn't say supposedly because it is. It's certainly not trying to be historically accurate in every sense. We can see that through the costumes. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought the costumes were absolutely sensational. They were beautiful. They were not historically accurate in the slightest. For one, we've got the young ladies like the Bridgertons and the rest of society wearing, aside from the Featheringtons, we'll talk about their dress in a minute, wearing Regency clothes, traditional Regency clothes, that had glitter in them. Fabrics that we know weren't a thing back then. They just didn't, that wasn't a thing, they didn't do that. So that was an inconsistency, which can be overlooked until you bring in the fact that the Queen and her court are all wearing Edwardian clothes, or Victorian, I forget which one, but not Regency clothes. While the Regency clothes tend to have the empire waistline and the dress drops from there, you get the big corsets that go all the way down with the Queen's clothes and with the Queen's entourage and with those people. So we're mixing 2 different eras of clothing into what's supposed to be Regency London. Then we come and we add the Featheringtons' clothes, the colours that they wore, and the shapes and the designs and the necklines, and like that kind of thing just wasn't a thing. We have a mixture of two different time periods and one non-existent one pushed into one era, and it's like, I suppose it does work, but it did make my eyebrows go up a few times thinking, that's just not accurate at all. But it just doesn't seem like they're trying to be accurate, which makes it better. That certainly wasn't the only thing that was not historically accurate, but we're going to get to that a bit later. Let's have a quick chat about the music. The score was fantastic. Whoever's idea that was to bring in traditional pop songs that we all know, that we all love, and fit it to an orchestra, that person is a genius. Didn't see it coming, would not have suspected it. Again, not historically accurate because that music didn't exist. Gotta say, I never thought that I'd be listening to Taylor Swift while watching two people get it on. Speaking of the getting it on, I'm really glad that I did not watch this with my mother. My mum and I like to watch Regency and period dramas together, and I'm really glad that we didn't this time. Wow! It is excessive! Like, I can understand one scene, maybe two. This was like, there was a montage. There was a people doing the yippee montage. And I say yippee because I can't say the actual word on YouTube, so we're gonna say yippee. That went on for a good 5 to 10 minutes. I know that you're in your house. I know this is your home. But there are people in here. It's like, what are you doing? That people can hear you. You're doing it butt-ass naked on the grass outside your house. There are windows. People can see you. So yeah, I get that honeymoons are fun and everything, but damn, put your bits away. Let's have a chat about Daphne and Simon. Daphne, I liked where she was coming from. I liked that she wanted to assert this certain independence over her own mind and her own decisions. I really enjoyed that. However, I found her to be extremely naive, which was not her fault. I mean, the difference, like the stark reality between men's education and women's education during this time is absolutely astounding. And the expectations on men versus women is appalling. So a man can go out and do the yippee with whoever the hell he wants, and it's fine, he just can't bring them home. But a woman can't even be alone in a garden with a man, not doing anything, without her reputation being torn to bits, and the reputation of her sisters, who again did nothing, weren't even there, being torn to bits. They're like, that bit, that is historically accurate. Sometimes I think it would be so nice if I'd been born in a Regency time and I could wear one of the dresses and I could like waltz through a field and pick wildflowers and do all the things, go to balls, I want to go to balls, do all these things, and then I remember the right to vote, the right to education, the right to wear what I want to wear, the right to own my own body. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll stay in my own century, thank you. So while Daphne was naive, it wasn't necessarily her fault. That information was just not made available to her. And for the most part, Simon actually aided in having information given to her. Like, he explained a little bit about how men and women do a thing that your mother should tell you about, but clearly she hasn't. Again, I do have some issues with the way Simon behaved towards her lack of education, or rather her ignorance. But again, I'll get to that. Let's talk about Simon's character. Simon, he was one of my favorite characters in the whole show. Yes, he is incredibly nice to look at. Aside from that, I like a character with a bit of an emotional struggle, with a hard background, with something that has maybe just not damaged them a little bit, but weathered them. His father was the biggest raging asshole. His father reminded me a little bit of Georgiana's father, Georgiana's husband from The Duchess. I don't know if you've seen that movie. If you haven't, it's brilliant. Go watch it. But the level of cruelty and malice and arrogance and narcissism, it felt very familiar to that character. So I certainly understand where Simon is coming from, considering he has a very poor image of what a family is supposed to look like and what familial love is supposed to look like and what spousal love is supposed to look like. He doesn't have an image of what that is, which then we see comes into play in their relationship. Her ignorance and naivety and his misunderstanding of what it is to love and be loved, you put those things together and we've got some real toxic energy happening. Toxic energy that led to them essentially assaulting each other. And yes, I say each other because I do believe that they both did something wrong. Neither justified the other's behavior. Let me put that in there right away. They behaved at their own accord, and they both did something that I would view as being assaulting. There is something wrong if you think that doing the yippee with somebody who doesn't know how babies are made is okay. If you are aware that that person is so ignorant about their own body, about human biology, about what it is you are doing to them, you shouldn't be doing it to them. I think she had made it quite clear that her understanding of his wording was that he couldn't physically have children, not that he didn't want to have children. He said, I can't give you children, not I won't. So I can see where her misunderstanding came into to play there. Does not justify what she did next. But if they had just had a conversation and he had explained to her, this is what we're doing, this is what the yippee is, this is how babies are made, I do not want to have babies, then I think we could have, it would have been a much shorter show. Then to what Daphne did to him. She was at that point aware of how babies were made, aware that Simon had said that he couldn't, so easy for her to interpret, doesn't want to, I would assume. To then trick him, do the yippee with him, even when he's saying, no, stop, wait, and carry on? That's like poking a hole in a condom and not telling your partner that you've done it. It is, I can't say the word, but we know what that is. And then she made it his issue because he had lied to her. And while yes, he did lie to her, and that is an issue, it is certainly not the biggest issue in the room. The biggest issue in the room is that she had assaulted him. And all I'm saying is, if those roles had been reversed, and she had been saying to him, I do not want to have children, I do not want to have children, and he had done that to her, that show would never have been released. He would have become a villain of the nth degree in everyone's eyes. But instead, because the roles are reversed, it has been romanticized. And why is everyone okay with this? I don't think that what he did was okay either. But I don't think that what she did was okay either. And then you have these two people who've committed atrocities against each other, blaming each other. And I'm just like, you know what? Maybe you could just accept that you are both assholes, that you both screwed up, and maybe you can try to salvage some sort of a relationship and try to actually help the person who you have clearly hurt so deeply. Yes, they get to a point of reconciliation. However, I think that we have still, as a society, brushed what happened under a rug because it doesn't fit our image of romantic the way that we want it to, and the way that the show has delivered it to us. I think we still have to acknowledge that what she did and what he did were terrible things. So this next bit, I am not going to pretend that I am by any means qualified to actually talk about it, but I'm going to venture my thoughts. Like I said earlier, it was clear they were not interested in historical accuracy, which meant that bringing in such a diverse cast of characters was great, and for the most part I really enjoyed that. I loved seeing what it would be like if, had that been the way in the day, it had been normal, how natural it was, how kind it was. and that there was no malice towards somebody for simply looking different, for having a different skin color. By portraying it as colorblind, they do run the risk of sweeping so many experiences, so many hardships, so much truth of what truly happened, what people faced, under the rug. And I think that can be quite dangerous. To pretend that something like that never happened is harmful, because it did. And people are still living with the repercussions of it now, 2 centuries later. It still exists. And as beautiful as it is to envision a world where that never existed, it can be dangerous. It would be fantastic if that had never happened, but it did happen, and it's still happening. And to pretend that it didn't could be very harmful. And now, like, I can't speak from experience. This isn't my experience because I am not a person of color. So I would recommend that if you want a proper opinion on this, speak to somebody who is a person of color. These are the questions that I have to pose, though. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I want to be taught. I want to educate myself. But in order to educate myself, I have to ask questions. Another thing that I found a little bit frustrating was the thread that they put in with the artist being gay. I felt like it was, if you're going to give somebody that thread, that storyline, give it to a main character, to give it to somebody who we genuinely really care about. Don't just throw it in there for diversity's sake. Maybe it'll become more of a thing in season 2, I hope so. But I feel like if you're going to do that and you're going to make a point with it, make the point. Make it stick. And the way to make it stick is by giving that story thread to someone we already care about. Like, give it to Eloise. I loved Eloise. She was my favorite part of the whole show. She stole every single scene she was in. She was fantastic. Her relationship with Penelope was probably my favorite relationship in the whole show. I must say though, I did think it was a little obvious that it was Penelope who was Lady Whistledown. I did guess it, and then I was absolutely convinced of it when they got kicked out of the garden party for the Queen, and then nothing was written about it. And I'm just like, well, come on, does no one else is seeing this? Of course Lady Whistledown didn't write about it. She wasn't there. Visually, the show, stunning. Absolutely beautiful. The sets, I loved how all the different houses spoke to the different characters. How in the Featheringtons' house we had the greens, we had the deep colours, we had the garishness, it was a bit gauche, and that quite fit with their entire family image. I liked how we had the Bridgertons, who were a much older family, and it shows through their dress, through the decor in their homes, through the color palettes, through the blues. I really liked how we actually had so much character investment in the world that built their characters up more. I will watch season 2. I am excited for it. I have no idea what it's going to follow because it seems like our story with Daphne and the Duke is probably over. Although I gotta say, you don't just get over years and years and years of not wanting to have children and then go, you know what? You convinced me. I want to see a change from the season that we saw with Daphne that's all about love and romance and stuff like that. While I'm not opposed to Eloise having love and romance, I don't want that to be the only thing that she has. I don't want her to settle into this life, into this mold that clearly does not fit her. So I'm really excited to see her take a new route, go on a new adventure, do something different to what Daphne has experienced. I love a good Regency period drama. I adore them. I'm always looking for new ones to watch. So if you have any to recommend, please tell me in the comments below. Also, let me know if you disagreed with any of my thoughts or agreed. I'm not going to argue with you if you disagree. I will have a discussion. So drop those down in the comments below. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more from myself, then maybe hit the subscribe button or the notification bell, because then you can find out when I'm posting more of this crap. And by this crap, I mean literally anything fandom related. TV, books, ridiculousness. They all fit under my banner, so welcome if that is your thing. You found the right spot. Also remember to drop a like, that actually helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Erin and I will see you in my next video. Bye!